so now we delve into the classification of strabismus. So we can classify strabismus based on different bases or different reasons. So strabismus can be classified depending on whether it is based on the direction of the deviation or based on how severe it is. Then we can also classify based on the duration and also based on comitancy. However, these are not the only classifications of strabismus, as you can find in different literature. There are different and so many types of classification of strabismus that are out there, but I found this to be relevant for you. So the first classification that is based on the direction of the deviation. Remember, we talked about deviation. So we can have a case where we have the eye that is affected, actually the one that is affected moving downwards, as you can see, and the other eye is still okay. So this will actually be hypotropia. Okay, when you have it moving up or deviated up, then that is actually hypertropia. Then we can have the deviation going laterally, where we have esotropia when it is turning inside or medially, and we can also have exotropia where we have it turning outwards. Okay, so this is the first classification based on deviation. So when you hear esotropia, exotropia, hypotropia, and hypertropia, those are deviations. We can also classify based on severity, as I said. So normally we can have the first type, which is just called an apparent squint or tropia. This is a misalignment that is always there, even when both eyes are open. Okay, so like even when you just look at that person, when the eyes are open, you can clearly see an apparent squint. So that is called an exotropia. Like in this case, this is an exotropia. If it was moving inside here, it will be it will not be exotropia. It will be something else. Okay, if it is moving up, then it will be hypertropia. Okay, so when you can apparently see the misalignment, that is atropia. Then aphoria. Aphoria is latent squint. So it's called latent because the misalignment occurs sometime, but not in other cases. So normally you'll find that the misalignment will occur like when you do some sort of covering. Okay, so like if you look at this person here, the eyes seem to be well aligned. But when you introduce a cover, then you'll find that there's a drifting of that eye. So this is called an exophoria. So in terms of severity, the tropia is much more severe than the phorias, okay? Because the tropia is apparent, well, the phoria is latent, as in we have to have some sort of covering on one eye to see it. The other classification is based on comitancy. So first of all, when you say something is concomitant, or basically, it is the deviation of the squinted eye is constant on any direction. So assuming like this person has a squint, so you'll find that the deviation at this, when they're looking at this side, and when they're looking up or down or to the side, the level of deviation is the same all round. Okay, that's why it's called concomitant, meaning that we have equal deviation all round as the eye is able to look at any direction of vision. Okay, so this is also normally termed as non-paralytic. Then we have incomitant strabismus. So here the difference is that the deviation, the level of deviation or the angle of deviation is not equal all over. So there are some parts you'll find a lot of deviation. For example, you look at this one compared to when they are looking at a different angle. Okay, so this is normally because of a very weak eye, and that's why it's normally referred to as paralytic strabismus. Okay, then the classification based on duration. So you might have constant strabismus in the case where we have had constant deviation of the visual axis in all directions, basically, irrespective of the eye. So the point in constant strabismus, we constantly have the deviation. Intermittent strabismus, we have the deviation sometimes it's not there. So at some point you'll see the deviation, and sometimes there's no deviation, but it is absent in the same condition of vision. Okay. Now then we have periodic strabismus. Now this one is we have deviation occurs only in certain circumstances and normally after regular intervals. So it almost goes to look like intermittent, but intermittent it's present or absent even with the presence of the same condition. But in periodic, you must have like that element or that circumstance that makes the deviation to be there, and it is normally regular. Okay. Thank you. And that was part 2.